We have some warmer conditions going into the rest of the week, but given that we came off a very wet and cold stretch, I've had so many people kind of pop in the weather office and say, is this a sign of what we have in store for this summer? Well, not so fast. So we actually have scientists looking at the potential for us transitioning into an El Nino summer. So I want to explain what El Nino is. Normally you have trade winds which blow from east to west, pushing warmer water off into parts of the Pacific. But then you have some years, which we call the El Nino years, where that shifts and the warmer water then pushes towards South America. This then changes the weather pattern across the continental U.S., where you have the Pacific jet a little bit lower and then the polar jet giving us warmer and drier conditions, or at least that's how it's supposed to pan out when you have an El Nino. El Nino also impacts the hurricane season, so weaker wind shear will create more hurricanes off of the Pacific, where we are noticeably seeing more hurricanes during the hurricane season in the Atlantic. Not necessarily the case during an El Nino season because of the stronger wind shear that keeps those hurricanes from forming. So what does this mean closer to home? Well, I've crunched some data for you for El Nino years dating back to 1997, so the last 5 stronger El Nino seasons that we've had. Our average temperature, summer temperature for June and July would typically be about 72 degrees. Well, if you look at this graph right here, we only had one of these 5 where we exceeded the average temperature. Now, when I say El Nino should be warmer, this kind of contradicts what we should be seeing during an El Nino season. So what about the average rainfall? Typically for June and July, the peak summer months, we see just under about 3.5 inches of rain. Well, when we crunch the data for these El Nino years, it really probably shaped up to be closer to average, if not maybe just slightly above average all in all, which we should be drier. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit because this is all comparatively speaking to averages, and we can see, some different weather patterns contrary to what an El Nino or La Nina suggests.